Holy you know what, we just got a game changer of an update from Saber, touching pretty much every corner of Space Marine 2. Welcome to the channel. This is LtBuzzLitebeer, and it feels like I'm reading through a menu of so much of what the community has been asking for. So let's just dive straight into it. In case you haven't already, smash that subscribe button as it's free and it really helps out the channel. And while you're at it, don't forget to ring that notifications bell to also receive my latest upload alerts. And without any more delay, here's the latest from Space Marine 2. All right, so first things first, I'm going to tell you on PC, I have not seen a patch this size in, I can't remember. It was 28 plus gigs to download this morning, and of course you have to verify files and install after that. So yeah, definitely budget some time if you don't have super baller internet. So again, 28 plus gigs on PC via Steam. And by the way, I don't play on either console, but for any of my console viewers out there, can you please respond and leave me a comment? Let me know what the patch size was for you on box and PlayStation. That would be greatly appreciated. And without that, let's get into these game-changing patch notes. Let's get started with the new features listed out here as part of patch 3.0. And pretty much all of the items listed out at the beginning of this patch notes review were things that were promised and shown on the Space Marine 2 roadmap. So here we go. We get the Hub Sparring Arena, a new special arena on the Battle Barge available in Operations and Eternal Wargame mode, where players can compete in friendly PvP with the players in their squad. So yeah, you can definitely kill a little bit of time and kill other players in the process. Ultrawide support for PC, once again, for PC is now in the game. Private mode for Operations mode that gives players the ability to play Operations alone with bots or alongside one friend without being matchmaked with random players during the mission. I know a lot of people have been asking for this. You want to be able to solo ruthless difficulty with 2 bots? It is now an option in the game. Also, they added in a what's new and message of the day, which I'm showing you footage that I recorded just a few minutes ago. It's just little helpful tool tips for the game. And then they also added an option to reset custom color presets. Yeah, this is kind of interesting, where you go into the Astartes chapters and you start messing around with the different colors and stuff. Well, now you can just easily swap between the different presets that you want. It makes it super simple. Just moving straight along, and we're already up to gameplay and balancing tweaks. And I'm going to tell you, this is kind of an odd mixture that Saber's lumped under this one category here together, but they're first going to hit you with some improvements to the marketing tools. So they improved the responsiveness and the comfort of the social wheel controls with a mouse. I'm got my hands together praying here. Thank you, Saber. This was an exercise in futility because I do play on PC with a mouse and keyboard. Trying to get that arrow scrolled around that circular wheel where it doesn't actually lock onto anything and it's jumping between the vocal commands, and I'm trying to shout out a command and it just doesn't work with that. Any improvements to that, I'm all for, and apparently they're here in this patch. They also disabled unnecessary objects that do not require highlighting and worked poorly with it. Much like the social wheel, this was an exercise in futility. You could be pointing straight at an object, trying to highlight it, and you would just start putting a marker down on the map. And finally, there's several minor bug fixes. No specifics, they just said several minor bug fixes. Now here's the odd part. We immediately just dive under this one header into balancing tweaks. So here we go. The Power Fist. Damage for fully charged attacks has been greatly increased. This is one I have not used. I need to switch over to that class, but there you go. Any of you that like to rock the Power Fist. The Heavy Plasma, the base ammo has been increased by 5. The blast damage radius also increased. Overheat per shot drastically decreased from 50 down to 30 for charge shots, and from 20 to 15 for base shooting, and base damage slightly increased by 10%. So that's buff, 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 buff. I mean, it's like 5 or 6 buffs for the Heavy Plasma right there. Med Stims, listen to this, restore contested health in addition to actual healing. What? That is a major buff for med stems. And then for all of you players out there that love to use and abuse that Ox grenade launcher ammo box infinite ammo thing, ammo can now be refilled only with the ammo boxes and cannot be refilled from the infinite ammo cache. I know I've seen players use that on Inferno. They just stand up there and all you hear is boom, 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 just constantly. And don't hate the player, hate the game, but they've apparently now patched that completely out of the game. Next up is the campaign, and Saber's actually gone in and modified a specific difficulty. Here's what they said. Enemy aggressiveness on veteran difficulty in campaign decreased for better single-player experience. But then on the flip side, listen to this, players' health on veteran difficulty in campaign is slightly reduced to compensate for AI aggressiveness and armor management updates. Okay, so how about the bots? And I know there's been a lot of community feedback about how the bots are not that helpful while you're going through the campaign. Well, lots of changes here as well. Various inhibiting restrictions were lifted, allowing bots to be more helpful and effective. I like the sound of that, while still not beating the game for the player. Thank you. I also like the sound of that. Bots will now help focus fire zoanthropes when the player attacks them. Third time in a row, I like the sound of that. Heavily eased restrictions on bots finishing of enemies instead of leaving them for the player to reduce annoyance. Yeah, on those Majoris targets, they just constantly leave them in those dazed states, and you've got to run over there and finish them off. Bots are now also allowed to help with gargoyle objectives. That's pretty cool. Fixed a variety of bugs related to the bots getting stuck. Haven't seen that one. And fixed a bug where bots can run out of ammo on weapons without a mag. And here come the changes that I'm most excited about. Operations mode. I've been rocking operations ever since I unlocked it during the campaign, and there are a metric crap ton of changes here. Starting off with the tweak to the AI director and spawn rules of chaos enemies in operations mode. I've seen so many of you commenting about chaos, the different enemy types, how it's just not rewarding to play against them. Well, here's a ton of changes for operations mode. Starting off with the max number of Zongors with shields on the arena at the same time reduced from 10 down to 4. So they more than cut it in half. Max number of cultist snipers on the arena at the same time also reduced from 10 down to 3. Yeah, those little pecks out there, they were just popping away with those snipers, just chipping away at your armor. They've been cut almost by 2/3. Max number of Zongors on the arena at the same time reduced from a total of 30 down to 20. Max number of Rubric Marines with bolt guns on the arena at the same time reduced from 8 down to 5. And the max number of Rubric Marines with Warp Flamers on the arena at the same time reduced by 1 from 4 down to 3. So big changes to the forces of chaos. But listen to these next ones. Perfect Parry has been updated, now restores armor for killing Minoris targets, not only for countering their special attacks. Woo! All right. Regarding block and fencing weapons, a bug has been fixed in Perfect Parry window for fencing weapons. Now it has 20 frames window for Perfect Parry and 10 frames of vulnerability at the end of animation instead of 30 frames of Perfect Parry for full animation as it was intended originally. So that's a little bit, what they cut, like 1/3 of the frames off of the Perfect Parry window. Assault class, I know I've read a lot of comments about Assault class. Base ground pound damage increased by 30%. For those of you rocking Assault, get in, try out this new patch. Let me know how that extra 30% is working for you. Armor boost drops from destructible crates are now less common. Cooldown also raised from 30 seconds up to 60 seconds. So they're taking away those armor boosts and doubling the cooldowns. For all my PvPers out there, you've got 2 changes in here. It says improve the player spawn system. It should make spawn killing more difficult. And they reworked the Vanguard's grapnel launcher in PvP. Check this out. Instead of full stun, it will now stagger enemies and will slow him down drastically. Next up are 3 changes Saber installed to the AI characteristics, and 2 of these are massive. But let's start off with the first one. It says, reduced ability to stun lock enemies with ranged attacks across all AI characters. Here come the two biggies though. Accuracy of ranged enemies is reduced when attacking from off-screen, and accuracy of ranged enemies is reduced when attacking melee engaged players. I know a lot of you out there, you struggle with those ranged attacks coming in, especially when you can't see them off screen. You're just getting peppered, or you're in some sort of melee bout, maybe with a Majora's target, and you're just getting peppered while you're in the middle of that. Well, both of those instances have now reduced accuracy. Also, regarding the Gaunts and the Zongors, melee damage now deals specific amount damage instead of just removing one complete armor segment per attack. So yeah, those last two are massive. And now we're going to get into specific enemy types, starting off with some Tyranid enemy variants. The Zoanthrope, our favorite. They increased the psychic scream damage sparsing time from 0.5 seconds up to 2 seconds to prevent one-shot damage. Also, the psychic scream damage has been reduced from 11 down to 8. The psychic scream effective range reduced from 50 down to 40 meters, and the psychic scream cast range is reduced by 10 meters. So overall, 3 nerfs to the Zoanthrope. How about the Gaunts? Well, the Flesh Borer spray attack damage reduced from 1 down to 0.5, and the Flesh Borer spray attack damage has also been reduced from 0.3 to 0.1. And how about the Tyranid Warrior with Devourer combo? Projectile damage reduced from 0.9 down to 0.6 per projectile. Next up, we're talking Chaos Forces, starting off with the Rubric Marines with the Warp Flamers. Well, the Icon of Flame damage has been reduced from 9 down to 6. Flamer burst damage has also been reduced from 6 down to 4 per shot. Say that again, 6 to 4 per shot. And the Flamer shooting damage reduced from 6 to 4 per projectile, health reduced by 10%. Rubric Marines with bolt guns, their spray attack damage has also been reduced from 1.5 down to 1. Precise shot attack, that's the one with the red indicator damage, reduced from 4 to 2 per projectile. And they reduced the frequency of teleports used to disengage players to make them less annoying to fight, health reduced by 10%. And finally, here you go, Zongors with shields, HP, that's their health points, greatly reduced. So overall, some pretty big changes there. We've got Rubric Marines with Warp Flamers, Rubric Marines with bolt guns, and then of course the fan favorite Zongors with shields. And now up to our massive enemy variants, the Carnifex. Rage phase updated. The Carnifex becomes faster and more aggressive. I'm down to try that out. Taunt frequency reduced. Fixed a bug where his Cone of Thorns attack wouldn't fire projectiles. And finally, how about the Hive Tyrant? They buffed the Tyrant. Check this out. Health slightly increased. Resistance to explosives and melta weapons increased by 20%. So yeah, the Hive Tyrant picks up health and is now more resistant to our favorite methods of attack against it. I always bring the Melta versus the Hive Tyrant, so we'll see how it performs after today's update. Mentioned earlier in this patch notes breakdown, but now expanded even further, we're talking about customization. They fixed certain icon colors, fixed several issues with default colors. Vanguard Relic Right Greave part now requires 29 victories instead of 36. Added a color pattern called Greaves pattern, allowing the player to customize the bottom and top half of the legs separately. If anything, I thought they would have allowed that for the arms, but they've added it to the greaves for the legs. So we'll have to see that, but I definitely like to see it added in for the arms as well. Saber's also gone in and tweaked 5 items to do with the maps, including several issues that were preventing players from progressing with some levels, okay? Fixed a lot of minor collision issues. I have noticed those. I've been playing the game ever since launch, and there are certain items that are very small that an Ultramarine should be able to just absolutely squash to pulp that are stopping me dead in my tracks. So that's a good sign. Tweaked the dust storm density and duration on the ballistic engine operation. That's an interesting one. They tweaked the Helldrake fire timings on the bridge and that operation. And trials can now be accessed via Hypnomat in the armory. And finally, Saber's gone in and added a bunch of bullet points of general fixes with patch 3.0. I'm not going to go through these verbatim for you. Instead, check out the screen. Maybe there's something up here that you've been dying to see into the game. But in general, they've got items on here like, again, general bug fixes, improved the jump pack ability responsiveness. I know some of you have been commenting about that. Fixed several issues in trials, lots of minor UI fixes, animation fixes and improvements, localization fixes. Even they fixed the announcer spam in the Eternal War mode. I've been reading your comments. Some of you have been complaining about that. But yeah, overall, Update 3.0 is looking to be a game changer. It is a monster patch in terms of size and also just the sheer number and volume of things that they've adjusted in the game. I haven't tried it out yet. I'm definitely dying to put in some time with operations. I got to get a few things out of the way, and then I'm going to log some time. But for those of you that have already logged some time, let me know how the game's playing once you have this new update installed. Sadly, that's all we've got time for today. And like I said earlier, this video is probably carried on far too long. We've got a ton of testing to do with Update 3.0. Remember to leave me any feedback and or questions you have about Space Marine 2 or in general, the Warhammer universe, and I'll do my best to respond. Remember to hit subscribe and ring that notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. All my socials, including links to all of today's sources, can be found down in the video description. Shout out to the nearly 245,000 of you incredible ladies and gents from across the globe who have taken the plunge, you've hit subscribe, and you're with me as we make that drive up to 250K. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.